Have you checked the children? You're a little mad sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil, Laird, and I'm here to do a review of the brand new A24 movie, The Green Knight. Now, Fuego was supposed to join me on this review, but unfortunately he was unable to make it, so I'm going to press forward so that way we can get the review up and you guys can find out if it's worth your time to go out and watch this film. Now, this movie is based on the Arthurian legend, The Green Knight, and it was actually written and directed by David Lowery, who, if you don't know, one of his more recent projects was he directed the 2016 remake, I guess you could call it, of Pete's Dragon. So yeah, that's a different sort of space in the cinematic universe than he's operating in with The Green Knight, but I'm going to go ahead and get into this review like we normally do. We'll talk about the story, the acting, the effects, but I'm going to start off with my overall thoughts, which were, I really enjoyed the presentation of the movie. I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was thoughtful as far as how it was presented. However, I thought it was a bit of a mess. It was a little bit all over the place as well, as far as storytelling purposes go. So that's the thing. It was presented beautifully cinematically, but I was a little underwhelmed with the story and how it ultimately played out. Again, I know it is an adaptation of an Arthurian legend, but there are definitely some liberties taken as far as how it's actually presented. So the story overall is, again, where I had kind of the most issue. It starts off telling the story of Sir Gawain, who is the headstrong knight of King Arthur, his uncle, and he's eager to prove himself. He's not even a knight yet, technically, in this film. So what happens is, one Christmas day, King Arthur circles all of his group and asks for someone to tell him a story. Right then, the door bursts open and this mysterious knightly figure wanders in on his horse, uninvited no less, but eventually the king does beckon him to come forward, and this green knight that looks mostly made of wood almost, except for his awesome looking armor, he offers a game to the whole court, basically saying anyone that can land a blow on me can do so, but then a year later I get the chance to land that same blow on them. And so it's interesting because obviously Sir Gawain takes up the challenge and he goes all out and he hacks off the Green Knight's head. And thinking, of course, that's the best way to do it, because then how can he come back and get you later? Unfortunately, the Green Knight is a very mysterious, mystical figure who then stands up and takes his head and tells him 1 year hence, and then leaves, basically laughing the whole way. And so this all happens in like the first 15 minutes of the movie. And then the rest of the story, the rest of the 2 hour and 10 minute long movie, is Gawain's year in the interim. Well, it's mostly that. It kind of speeds through most of the year, but then it's the approaching days as it's getting closer to Christmas once again, in order to have to go and face the Green Knight where the Green Knight says he is to go and face him. Because Gawain knows if he doesn't go, the whole kingdom is going to know that he's a bit of a coward, but that's not what he wants, so he goes on this quest. And then the rest of the story, which I'm going to remain a little more cagey about because I don't want to spoil things for anyone interested, is the trials and tribulations and interactions and things that happen to him along the way on his quest to where the Green Knight is waiting for him. So now, having explained it, I'm like, well, it's a little more interesting than maybe I gave it credit for, and I guess that's possible, but it's presented so slowly at times that I did end up getting bored during the film. It did pick up again at times, but then the way the third act plays out is interesting, while at the same time a little bit frustrating, because things just happen and happen and happen. And again, I'm not going to say why or how, because that would pretty much ruin the whole impact of the ending. But ultimately, even with everything that goes down, I felt a little dissatisfied with how it ended. I liked some aspects of it, and other aspects, again, how it actually played out is what I had more of a problem with in this instance. So that's what I'm going to say about the story. Now, getting into the acting was all really well done. Everyone acquitted themselves fantastically. No one took me out of the movie. Sometimes that does happen, but in this one, everyone played their part to a T. King Arthur, his wife, Gawain did a really good job, and the Green Knight, of course, was super entertaining to watch. So the acting was really enjoyable through the whole thing. It's just, again, the story was slow and plodding and very self-revelatory. What I mean by that is the film really takes the time to bask in itself. These stops along the way for Gawain, they're all sort of interesting, but they kind of feel like disconnected vignettes as opposed to one continuous story that is building this character. And again, I might need a rewatch on this to fully appreciate it. It just was presented very ploddingly, and unfortunately to me that just makes things a little less interesting. They don't strike home as well, and maybe I just didn't absorb some of the information I was meant to absorb. But that's just how I felt after watching it just the one time. So moving on to the cinematography, which is something I already praised towards the beginning. This film is presented beautifully. There are fantastic steady shots that hold on stuff, that build mood just by even doing that because of the way it's visually presented. A lot of the camera movements are done so well that they are wonderfully revealing of certain aspects of the story when they happen. Again, I'm trying to be a little bit tiptoey so I don't spoil things for you guys. But the cinematography is used to not only portray the story as interestingly as it can considering the pace, but it does augment the story at times with the things that they do with the camera. So I definitely had to shout that out. And then finally, the effects. I thought the effects were really well done in this. There were certain things, again, you see certain things in the trailer, so it's not spoiling, but there's a section of the film where there are these giant figures, and that ended up playing out really interestingly. Again, I think there's certain things about this movie that may have gone over my head. I'm sure everyone that's those hardcore A24 fans are going to tell me exactly that I just didn't get it, but I still enjoyed some aspects of the journey along the way. I just didn't like the plotting nature of the film. Back to the effects, those giants worked really well. The Green Knight himself was a sight to behold as far as a practical character on screen goes. It was just a really cool design. That look was so cool and so well done. And then there's a fox that runs around quite a bit. That's the only thing that can look a little bit questionable at times because it's a CG fox pretty much the whole time, and sometimes you can tell it's a CG fox. But otherwise, all the effects worked harmoniously with the set design and the production design overall. And so all of that stuff, again, it was a beautiful movie to watch. Just the content within was just a little bit too slowly presented for me to fully appreciate. I don't know if you guys are going to feel the same. Definitely your mileage may vary on this one, but I do recommend you give it a try. Do you need to give it a try in the theater? I don't necessarily think so. I think that this is one you can wait for streaming services, but there are some big moments. Again, that giant portion is definitely cool to see on a big screen. I will admit that. But in consideration of the entire film, I don't know that it's necessary that you go to the theater. If you feel comfortable going to the theater, still while everything is kind of going on pandemic-wise, and yet the restrictions in the theater have been lifted, keep that in mind if you are deciding whether to go. Is it worth it? Give it a try at matinee price, probably, is the way I would recommend it. So that's going to do it for my thoughts on A24's The Green Knight. Let me know in the comments down below if you are interested to see this one. If you did see it, go ahead and give me your spoiler-free thoughts down there as well. Let's not spoil things for anyone that's actually interested to go see this one. Thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel like you do. We greatly appreciate it. If you guys want to become a patron yourselves, the link is in the description box down below. You can actually recommend movies for us to review, do commentaries for, all kinds of good stuff like that. But until next time, I've been Cecil Laird, and remember guys, stay scared.